I used this map in my last video to showcase the border between Pakistan and India, and to my surprise, there were a lot of people who didn't like the way the map was. The concerns were regarding where the actual border between India and Pakistan in the region of Jammu and Kashmir should be. Jammu and Kashmir is nestled right between three of the world's biggest militaries, India, Pakistan, and China. The region is the epicenter of a long-standing border dispute between the three. In this video, we'll break down the conflict in Jammu and Kashmir, specifically in regards to India and Pakistan. So let's get started.
Thousands of people, including activists and even pro-India politicians, reportedly rounded up.
India and Pakistan have fought for control of Kashmir for decades.
Depending on which side you are on, Pakistan or India, both have their own version of who is to blame for this conflict. However, as a filmmaker, my try is to tell the story from the perspective of people living in Kashmir, the people who are actually suffering. How did this conflict start? You see, like all world conflicts, two things are at the forefront here as well. The first one is the British. The second one is religion. Here's the map of India under British occupation. The area marked in red and yellow are both under British control. However, the area marked in yellow was given the status of a principality. The princes were just figureheads. The real power lied in the monarchy back in Britain. These principalities were formed through treaties that were signed over the years, giving Britain control without shedding any blood. Meanwhile, these kings had a chance to maintain their lavish lifestyle and not having to live like a common person. Now let's fast forward to 1947.
The 15th of August, 1947. The British Empire in India has come to an end.
As Britain is leaving India, the entire country was going to be partitioned into India and Pakistan. The Muslim majority regions were going to be given to Pakistan, and the Hindu majority region would be part of India. However, the princely states were allowed to choose whether to stay independent or join one of the two countries. At the time of partition, there were close to 565 princely states, varying in size. Most of the princely states acceded on their own to either Pakistan or India, but a few that didn't were annexed by force in the coming year or so, like the state of Hyderabad in the south of India. In all of this, there's one principality by the name of Jammu and Kashmir, which has a Muslim majority, so technically it should have gone to Pakistan, but was ruled by a Hindu king by the name of Hari Singh, and he decided to stay independent, which is fair, it's his kingdom, he does what he wants. However, what transpired a few weeks and months after the independence changed the future of this region forever. You see, in the months following the independence, the king, Hari Singh, decided to carry out a state-sponsored genocide against Muslims in the region of Jammu. He wanted to reduce the number of Muslims in order to change the demographic makeup of Jammu. The estimates are that about 100,000 Muslims were killed in the 1947 Jammu massacre. These people who were being killed had ties with tribes just across the border, and when these tribesmen heard about the attacks, they invaded Jammu to defend their families and friends. Most of the initial tribesmen coming in had family ties with these people who were being massacred. But of course, Pakistani government saw this as an opportunity. They fully backed the tribesmen with money and weapons. If anything, within a few days, Pakistan started mobilizing tribesmen from all regions of Pakistan, especially the Pashtun region. However, the official Pakistani military was never involved. Seeing the situation getting worse, Hari Singh decided to accede to India in exchange of military aid. And of course, the Indian military jumping into Jammu and Kashmir triggered the Pakistani military to officially jump in as well. So on 22nd October 1947, started the first Indo-Pak War in order to decide the future of Jammu and Kashmir. The fighting went on for a bit over a year. Numerous people lost their lives in the process, and the battle turned into a bit of a stalemate. Both the countries were having a tough time moving the border lines either way. And finally, with the intervention of UN, a ceasefire was declared on 5th of January 1949. And as part of this ceasefire, both India and Pakistan were to withdraw from the region, back to where they were at the time of independence. And a referendum had to be facilitated, allowing the people in Kashmir to decide what they want, not what these countries would choose for them. And of course, both countries didn't give a rat's ass. So no military withdrawal or elections happened, denying the Kashmiris the right to choose what happens to them. And it's being done to them by two countries that literally fought for their own independence from the British. Then in 1965, another Indo-Pak War broke out with similar outcomes, thousands of soldiers and Kashmiris losing their lives with no change in where the border lies. While these two giants are fighting back and forth for this piece of land, the actual inhabitants of the area are losing their hope for getting a stable, peaceful life. However, the biggest loss of faith for the people in Jammu and Kashmir was the year 1987. It's the year when India rigged a state election. People of Jammu and Kashmir decided to protest. They decided to push back and ask for freedom from both Pakistan and India. It was in 1987 that we see a rise in pro-independence militias. These militias are willing to pick up arms and fight India and Pakistan for their own independence. And once again, similar to what India and Pakistan had done to get their own independence from Britain. You see, when a group of people were protesting and fighting the British, they were freedom fighters. But when a group is asking for their own rights, the simple right to be able to choose their own leaders, the state of India declares them terrorists and increases its military presence in the region. And of course, Pakistan's no different. Pakistan saw this once again as an opportunity and started funding and organizing terrorist groups that were not pro-freedom for Jammu and Kashmir, but they were pro-Pakistan. These new terrorist organizations were funded and trained and weaponized by Pakistan, and their main goal was to cause chaos and death. Once again, within a few years, the common people who had started these militias were silenced, and their pro-freedom voice was silenced as well. And it was once again a battleground between Pakistan-funded militants and Indian military. Not just the Indo-Pak wars of 1947, 1965, 1991, the increase in militant activity and this terrorism has led to an increase in military and civilian casualties. Tens of thousands of people have lost their lives for this one region. Conflict has also been marked by violence and human rights abuse. Both India and Pakistan have been accused of using excessive force against civilians, and there have been reports of torture, extrajudicial killings, and disappearances. People just vanish into the mountains of Jammu and Kashmir. In the recent years, the Indian government has been criticized for its treatment of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, with allegations of arbitrary detentions, restrictions of freedom of movement and expression, and the use of pellet guns to disperse crowds. All of this fighting and conflict has had zero impact on that fucking line they drew that has divided this region. But it has definitely had a profound impact on the people of the region. The ongoing violence and insecurity has disrupted daily life. There's been a significant humanitarian toll. The conflict has also led to displacement of millions of people, with many forced to flee their homes due to the violence. Despite the challenges, there have been efforts made to resolve the conflict. In addition, there have been several rounds of talks between India and Pakistan spanning over the years, with zero results and no hope for ever resolving this conflict. Whenever the two countries or people of these countries talk about Kashmir, they just see a territorial conflict, or how this is a Hindu versus Muslim issue. They tend to forget that these are human lives at stake. And I can guarantee there will be a few comments that will try and compare the genocide of Muslims that I mentioned in this video and how I did not mention the riots and genocide that has happened in the region which has impacted the Hindus. But is that really the issue? The issue is lack of empathy. We all have people who don't have to live in this conflict zone. When someone in Jammu and Kashmir dies, a civilian or a military personnel, regardless of who they are, those families have lost a mother, a sister, a brother, or a father, not a Hindu or a Muslim. People of Jammu and Kashmir have lost generations trying to get their rights and hopefully have a peaceful life for once. But it's 75 years onwards and there's no end in sight. That's it for this video. I'll see you in a week or two from now. Thank you very much.